I feel I've always been inspired by nature in my work, and I think that really comes from this interdisciplinary perspective. So biology always interested me, as well as chemistry and medicine. Sometimes when you're trying to solve a problem, the easiest way to do it isn't to invent something new. Nature has a lot of time to sit around and figure out ways to solve problems. We are designing and developing and deploying truly next-generation neurotransmitter sensors to be used in the brain. We hope to be able to use these sensors to understand how neurotransmitters are used in chemical communication and to ultimately understand how information is encoded in chemical signaling. By doing so, we'll be able to make fundamental breakthroughs in our understanding of the biology of the brain. But we also believe that this information will be quite useful in trying to understand what happens when brains malfunction. For instance, in psychiatric diseases like depression and anxiety, in the use of their current treatments, and hopefully in being able to identify places where we'll be able to design new treatments. The sensors that we're currently working on are really a two-part modular system. The first part involves identifying artificial receptors. We envision having a different receptor for each different neurotransmitter. The second part of the sensor involves something called a field effect transistor. We couple receptors to field effect transistors, and when a receptor recognizes a neurotransmitter, it changes conformation, and that change in conformation is detected or transduced by the transistor as a change in conductance. So we're basically taking a chemical signal and we're turning it into a purely electronic signal. But we're doing all of this in a wet environment in a living organism. And so that's part of the challenge of making this whole thing work. In the beginning, we were told that there would be fundamental limitations that we would not be able to overcome. And that was at times discouraging, but at other times, it kind of made me feel challenged in the way that one feels when you know that you're right, you know that you can solve problems, and you know that you can make something move forward. At every step of the way, we had roadblocks thrown in front of us, and we were able to overcome one problem after another. We began to believe more and more that what we were proposing was no longer science fiction, but it was actually going to become a reality. There are a couple of things that are really gratifying about being a scientist. One, of course, is scientific discovery. That's really the obvious. But I think something that may be less obvious to people that are outside of the field is the work that we do to train the next generation of scientists. In science, we're one of the last professions that have true one-on-one mentorship. When you see a student reaching that stage where they're telling you what the next experiment should be, I think that's something that many scientists would say is one of the highlights of their careers.